I'm in Hawaii. Let's do a little accessibility tour. So I went to Hawaii for the first time for an entire week and we did so many things and I rated the accessibility of it all. So let's get into it. First of all, the airplane, just standard accessibility. I used the pre-boarding, the wheelchair service, all of that good stuff. The Maui airport was pretty accessible. It was super easy to get on the train. There were not a lot of gaps and there was accessible seating, which was super, super nice. I will say you should take the train because it is not the short 8-minute walk that the signs say it is. Don't trust the signs. We actually got a room right next to the elevators, so that is super nice and accessible for me because the less I have to walk, the better. Otherwise, there's this long hallway that we could have had to go down, but I am right next to these elevators. And what's actually super nice is that these elevators go directly down and then out the building to the courtyard of the resort. There's these paths that go all through the resort and then out to the beach. And there's actually no steps anywhere. So I did request an accessible room and we had booked this months ago, but we got a call the day or maybe 2 days before we flew here saying that there were no more accessible rooms available. And I didn't fight it or argue it because I didn't bring my wheelchair, but the accessible rooms still have other features that I could have benefited from, like grab handles, an accessible shower that you don't have to step into, a shower seat, stuff like that. Who knows if all the accessible rooms are actually taken up by people who need them, but in case that was what was happening and I wasn't bringing my wheelchair and I didn't need the wheelchair accessible specifically and I could get by without it, I just didn't fight it. The resort also could have just given away all of the accessible rooms to people and then realized oh shoot, someone actually needs that. Sorry, we don't have it anymore. And in that case, that is not good and not fair to people that actually need the accessibility features, but I'll never know if that was truly the case. I did meet a spinal cord injury wheelchair user in kind of the common area of our resort, and we chatted very briefly, but I didn't get around to asking if they had an accessible room and what that was like for them. But otherwise, the room is pretty accessible. There is a good amount of space. You could get a wheelchair through the space. There's a ton of room right here. The doors are all standard size to be able to get a wheelchair in. The back door, granted there is a lip down here, but otherwise it can open pretty good to get a wheelchair out. And then the patio is big enough to fit accessibility aids. Pretty much everything else is at waist height to reach, the dresser, and this is the fridge and the coffee stuff. The bathroom, it is a slide door, which I feel is good for accessibility because then the door is out of the way. The only issue is the bathtub. It's a tub and it has a lip that you have to step over, but there is this little bench thing that you can sit on. So I have been sitting on this in the shower, which has been really nice because I was anticipating not having a shower seat, but that is kind of a built-in one. I don't know if it's meant for that, but that's what I've been using it for. There is no grab bar, however, unless I guess you're counting this, but that's not really meant to be weight bearing. So yeah, other than that, the hotel is really accessible, and for places like these restaurants that line the whole line of the beach, if there are stairs, then there is also a ramp option. All of the walkways to the actual sand is fairly flat and accessible, so they either are well maintained and are flat, or there are little mats that help with the transition from the pavement to the sand. And the walkway itself along the strip of the beach and along the resorts is very flat and accessible. It could be wider, but you can still fit people walking, passing each other, or a chair and passing somebody. We went to the Maui Ocean Center, which I was surprised at the accessibility of it. I borrowed one of the wheelchairs that they had because I didn't bring my own, and pretty much everything was accessible except for the sea turtle little viewing area. It was accessible at the top and I could get my wheelchair up at the top, but there were stairs to get down to this area where I'm standing, so unfortunately I couldn't bring the wheelchair down here. The Ocean Center is actually pretty small in terms of like square footage, so it wasn't super fatiguing getting around. Granted, I was in the wheelchair, but if I wasn't and I was using a different mobility aid and walking, it really was not that bad. We went to a lot of little local shops. This one was Maui Mood, I highly recommend, and most of them were all pretty accessible and easy to access, which was super exciting. Our next and biggest activity was a doors off helicopter ride. Yes, doors off. In terms of accessibility, I mean, there isn't much to say about it. You are like sitting on the helicopter, so it's not too bad. It is kind of scary because you're literally so high up without doors on a helicopter. We did a lot of walking around along the beaches because our resort was right on the sand, and then we were close to Whalers Village, and Whalers Village was like a 5-minute walk, so it wasn't too bad. It is mostly accessible, but there are a few shops that have steps going up into them, and there were signs on the outside that said please contact associate for accessibility, but how are you supposed to contact them if you can't get inside? I feel like they had a lot of food allergy options, but for someone super picky like me and someone that doesn't like seafood, I feel like I was pretty limited in that sense, so I was eating off the kids menu a lot, but it worked out and it was fine. Our next big adventure was the road to Hana, and I do recommend doing this, especially because it can be done completely from the car if you need to. However, there are quite a few accessible spots, and I highly recommend downloading the Guide Along GPS app. It tells you exactly where to go, what's worth it, what's not, where to park, all of that stuff. The Garden of Eden is a must, and it is pretty accessible. There's a little hike down to see a waterfall, but it is not accessible. Do not attempt it. You can see the waterfall on the road to Hana after you get past Garden of Eden. I really enjoyed the views and the easy to walk or roll road that the cars can also go on, and they have so many cute little birds and peacocks, which I'm obsessed with. That's one of my special interests that you can feed, so make sure to bring quarters. On your way out, there is food, so make sure to stop and check out the little huts. There are waterfalls and such to stop at along the way, but I recommend just kind of looking at them as you drive by. Something that I do not recommend is Black Sand Beach because there are so many stairs that you have to go up or down to get to the beach, and they were so difficult. Like, yes, it's cool, it's black sand, but for the stairs and the amount of effort that it took, I don't think it was worth it. We did end up doing it because we didn't know that there are that many stairs, and you have to buy the park pass ahead of time and have a reservation. But if I had known that it was that inaccessible, I probably wouldn't have done it. There is a cool cave there too, so if black sand and a cave is like on your must do, then I guess you can tackle the stairs if you want, but just be warned that it is inaccessible. Black Sand Beach is cool, but these stairs are killer. And then we went to Red Sand Beach, which again is not very accessible, but in a different way. Instead of stairs, it's a really sketchy hike. I grew up hiking and I know how to handle these kinds of hikes and support my body, but if you are not used to hiking, then do not attempt this hike. This apparently is one of the most common areas for search and rescue to come get people, so I'm begging you, please do not attempt this if you are not an avid hiker. One waterfall that I do think is worth stopping at is at the end of the road to Hana, a little past Hana, and it's Wailua Falls. Even just to look from the side of the road, it is amazing and so stunning, but if you can manage to get over some of the rocks, there is a beautiful waterfall and a pool of water that you can swim in underneath of it. Overall, I had a really great time, but my body was exhausted by the end of each day, so being able to go back to our hotel and crash was so nice. Getting to the airport early and using the TSA cares was a must do because this airport is so small, and somehow we got stuck in some sort of traffic jam with baggage claim, and we were sitting in this line for so long, I ended up sitting on our suitcases. But other than that, it went so well, and I can't wait to go back one day.